AskReddit by Conrad Kodiak. Do you think jokes about the Titanic submarine are in bad taste? Why or why not? Serious. Attention. Serious. Tag notice. Jokes, puns, and off-topic comments are not permitted. https://www.reddit.com/r//wiki/wiki_rule_6- in any comment parent or child. Parent comments that aren't from the target group will be removed, along with their child replies. Report comments that violate these rules. Posts that have few relevant answers within the first hour, and posts that are not appropriate for the serious tag will be removed. Consider doing an AMA request instead. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit. Message compose !2 =r AskReddit if you have any questions or concerns. One of the people on the submersible is a good friend of my wife's parents. I've never met the guy, but my wife has a bunch of times. He's the one who's been down to the Titanic 35 times before. I get it. I don't think he's a billionaire and rich people are still people with thoughts and feelings, but I also don't understand what the fuck he was doing on this thing. Some people just want that feeling of adventure. My in-laws say they are both devastated, but he always kind of lived his life on the edge. He was also in his 70s and had a good life. I feel bad for that 19-year-old. Look at the documentary about the Nepal earthquake and see all the stupidity that's going on Everest. They are not ultra rich, but fairly rich and ultra motivated. They risk it all for a 1-minute thrill. The fact that there is a death zone where you don't rescue other people because it means your own death, that alone is so crazy. And still they go. Edit, the movie, Everest, https://hboh.com/movie-review-everest/ is probably a better example. I mean, the jokes kind of write themselves at this point. The CEO is down there and he's the one that wanted to save money and skip some important steps of the whole situation. To me that is the most bizarre. The CEO who knowingly spent as little as possible on many of the safety features and regulations of the submersible, got on board. Like, if I was that rich, I'd be going full John Hammond and sparring no expensive for no other reason than to ensure my own survival. I'm 50/50. I think it's bad taste to joke about someone's death, but it's also bad taste to expect your average person to care as much as the media thinks we do about billionaires who fucked around and found out. As much as I hate this about myself, I don't have it in me to care about these people that I never knew. Majority of whom were likely only 5-10 years from a natural death in a hoe. They would have signed waivers, they would have been briefed on the risks they were taking, and while I feel bad for them and their families, I can't bring out more emotion than, well, that sucks. I do think it's in bad taste, but I understand why people are making jokes as well. I think it's too far out of a normal person's experience to see someone who paid $250,000 to go into an unregulated vessel, to look on the wreckage of the Titanic from a screen, with the whole thing piloted with a $40 game controller with many bad reviews. It borders on satire, and is just absurd enough for a lot of people to not register that there are actual people going through something awful. This is probably the best way to describe it. It's sad when people die, but the situation itself is so very bizarre. It's the incredible irony. People dying because they flouted safety to visit a ship that got sunk because they flouted safety. Yeah, I guess they are getting a really authentic Titanic experience in that sense. I think there are ways to be distasteful about it. But people still make jokes about world hunger and people die daily from starvation. But joking about that isn't seen as nearly as offensive. It all depends on the joke, I'd say, and who's hearing it. Removed. The trawler full of refugees that capsized in the Mediterranean and drowned hundreds. The German captain of a nearby vessel that began saving as many as she could and now faces 20 years in Italy for aiding in illegal immigration. The fact that it's barely getting covered in comparison to the rich white guy who ignored a litany of safety protocols and knowingly took some billionaires down in a compromised sub that ran on a game controller and didn't even have seats, let alone windows rated for the depths undertaken. That captain is an absolute badass. When it happened there was coverage, at least in German. And everything I learned about her was just insane. It's absolutely disgusting that she's getting punished for doing the only humane thing in the whole situation. She went in knowing that there would be serious consequences, but she went through with it. It's such a farce that she's getting punished this harshly and yet obscene amounts of money are spent to rescue some idiots in a tin can. What I find kind of shitty is the resources being spent on this and the media attention vs the refugee ship that went down. Totally agree, although I will say I think the Canadian and US Coast Guards are using this as a real life training scenario more than anything. You spend $250k to get onto a rickety halfway McGive at Home Depot device controlled by a PlayStation controller from wish.com and expect me not to laugh when something goes wrong? PlayStation controller would have been an improvement. It was an off-brand's box controller. Nope. The rich aren't exempt from the Darwin Awards. Only one I feel bad for is the kid. Full stop. Full stop. Full stop. Edit. Okay, I'm getting lots of comments on calling the 19-year-old a kid. My apologies if that bothers people. I'm in my 50s and to me anyone under 25ish is a kid. I do see your points, but I thought it likely he was just joining his dumbass dad to bond or whatever and isn't as likely to be a complicit rich bitch suckers. The French researcher I feel for. He's one of the foremost experts in the Titanic and I totally understand his desire to see the vessel in person. Fortunately he was 74 and had lived plenty of his life already. The kid I feel for as well for obvious reasons. No, I don't think they're in bad taste. I also don't think they're jokes. I think we're at a point in society where the friction between regular people and the ultra wealthy is fostering genuine hate. And I don't think it's unjustified. Why would the average man mourn the death of a billionaire taking a frivolous expensive trip and having the hubris to ignore the risks? Yep. Well put. They could have used that money spent getting on a rickety enclosed tube to do something actually helpful. But nope. They had to visit a century-old water grave. The lack of respect for their own lives doesn't even compare to the lack of respect for their fellow human. The titans that this craft, and the Titanic, were named after were defeated by the god of the sea. The planes searching for their remains are named after that god. The sheer level of hubris required to challenge the ocean in a craft named after its enemy doubtless extends beyond the choice of name. Jokes are fair game. I think charging hundreds of thousands for a profoundly dangerous yet completely optional venture is the truly offensive thing. Seriously, they turned the Titanic into a sketchy tourist trap. Okay, but now the submarine named Titan can join the Titanic as part of that tourist trap, and in another century, maybe another submarine named Tit will join. We gotta keep the naming conventions. I don't mind the humor, it's the focus I can't stomach. We're obsessed with shit like this while the real problems go unattended. Bad taste, sure. But that's sometimes what makes it funny. People make jokes about terrible events all the time. Those on Twitter who are celebrating it though, those are psychopaths. Just like 9/11 jokes. Of course it was an incredible tragedy, but man, I lost my shit when someone pasted Miguel in front of the burning tower saying it's a canon event. I think it has to do with income. If a poor or middle class person was somehow stuck down there, I'd be horrified and really hoping for them to pull through. But these people aren't poor or middle class, they're billionaires who paid more than I make in like 5 years to be down there, and it's going to cost them their lives. It's not quite irony, but it's close. Like none of us poor folk could even afford to be in the situation. The only reason they are going to die is because they had the money that put them there in the first place. So we average Joe folks laugh and make jokes about it. We like to see people who are above us, this time economically speaking, fall. It's funny. Is it in bad taste? Sure. But it's still funny. It's also ironic that this allegedly safe submarine goes down while visiting a ship people thought was unsinkable. I think being a billionaire when there's so much hunger and poverty is in bad taste. Not really. The CEO and pilot has made a lot of silly statements about safety that make this humorous. The occupants know the risks. It's sad, but no, the jokes aren't in bad taste. Not to mention the company's legal advisor lawyer now threatening to let the public know the names of those who didn't do their work, implying the Navy Coast Guard are not doing enough to help clean up their mess. The whole thing reeks corporate greed to me. Yeah, it's bad taste, but I like dark humor. Humor makes the darkness of life bearable. I want my humor as dark as the Mariana Trench. The ultra-rich have stoked this class warfare situation in the US for the past 20 years. They get richer, the middle class gets poorer and poorer. And we're supposed to have sympathy for someone that has $250k lying around to do this. If I had an extra $250k, it would be life-changing. And I'm sure it would be life-changing to 90% of Americans. The rich have secluded and deluded themselves into thinking they deserve sympathy despite their overwhelming amount of privilege and gross misunderstanding of what it means to get by. Until things get better for middle America, it's gonna be hard not to laugh at the dumb and rich. No, the pilot was a fucking moron, and anyone that believed him, I'm sorry, is a short-sighted idiot. I feel bad for the 19-year-old. That's the only actual tragedy. It's enraging that this happened because the company was so idiotic. I jaff. The CEO skimped on safety many times in media and lawsuits. The people on board signed waivers that they knew it wasn't safe. They were informed and went anyway. The whole thing is absurd as the cheap Bluetooth controller they were using to steer. If I am stupid enough to spend $250k to put my head in a rapid gatter's mouth and it crunches me like a cantaloupe, please meme away. The brazen disregard for their own safety is what allows the jokes to be made. If they didn't care, why should we? They paid $250k per person to dive down to see the Titanic in a submarine 3x plus deeper than it was supposed to go. Jokes are going to be made. I'm just giving a billionaire the same amount of empathy he gives his underpaid employees. Of course. Those people are stuck in a small tube knowing their air is running out and there is no escape. I can't think of a worse nightmare. It seems more likely the vessel imploded and is the best case scenario, at least they would have died instantly. I think it's bad taste to make fun of it. I also find it to be extremely bad taste that this sub has 24/7 coverage, and there's not been a damn thing on the news talking about the boat that was lost at sea with hundreds of people on it. Like, come on man. Has there been any survivors found from the boat? Can't cover that some billionaires are trapped in a tin can. Like the fuck? Emo because of how weird and unbelievable this whole thing is, from the CEO's attitude to the construction of the sub to weird circumstances. Plus it's an ongoing story. The refugee ship sank. That's kind of the end of the story. You might recall that in 2018 the soccer team trapped in the cave was the hot topic story and none of those kids were rich.